Good evening, producer Susan. How you doing?
Good evening, Jersey Joe. I'm doing great. How are you?
Well, good. We're dealing with the second blizzard of the season here in New Jersey. We got about a half an inch of snow today, and some of the hard hit areas got three-quarters of an inch. And I have to tell you, I watched two different local news stations this morning, and I have to tell you, they had reporters out on scene, standing on bare sidewalks next to bare streets or wet streets, talking about the overnight snow, and they had to go, well, as you can see over here on the grass, we have snow. Now, I lived in Syracuse for 8 years. You know what we used to call 12 inches of snow in Syracuse in February?
A dusting, a minor inconvenience.
We called it Tuesday. In fact, I don't ever recall ever seeing a reporter out on the sidewalk, for anything less than 2 feet of snow in Syracuse ever. And then same thing in Colorado. 25 years in Colorado, are a half an inch of snow, and they've got reporters on location doing live reports. It just absolutely blew my mind. So
Well, we got about a half an inch last night on the overnight, but we are supposed to get about a half a foot on Friday.
Did you have reporters on scene doing location reports?
It must have been a slow news day in New Jersey.
It was. It really was. All right, let's try to do a rundown of what we're going to try to squeeze in this week. Our quote of the day is going to be from the late Eleanor Roosevelt, former First Lady, on tell the difference between great minds, average minds, and small minds. And I'll tell you how long it took me to get a concealed weapons carry permit in New Jersey, which coincidentally I got this morning. Did you ever get a speeding ticket?
A few.
All right, we're going to ask you how fast yours was, because I think we have a new record breaker. In our Stupidest Thing I've Heard All Week segment, we have a quote from Vice President Kamala Harris on what she believes that she and Joe Biden have done on heating costs and electric costs. In our You Won't Hear This on TV segments, we actually have two stories. The first one is another in a long list of alleged suicides of people associated with Bill and Hillary Clinton. Have you ever heard anything about how many people who have been associated with the Clintons have allegedly committed suicides over the past 2 decades?
No.
Well, I'll give you a little preview of that. In our second story, we'll tell you what happened. I don't know if you remember, in 2012, there was a mass shooting at the Aurora Theater in
Yes.
Colorado. And well, a couple lost a daughter, and they decided to sue the people who made the guns, the people who made the bullets, the people who made the body armors, the people who made the tear gas. We'll tell you what happened as a result of that lawsuit. Do you have any friends who are really extreme environmentalists?
Not too over the top.
Right. Well, if you ever meet, I've got the perfect gift for it. If you have any friends or relatives who are extreme environmentalists, I'm going to tell you about the perfect gift for that. And our taxpayer relief shot comes to us from Indianapolis, where a woman shoots and kills a violent ex-boyfriend attempting to break into an apartment at 1 o'clock in the morning. So you think we can fill 30 minutes with that?
You always seem to amaze me how you can pack it all in.
All right. Our quote of the day, former First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt. And she said, "Great minds discuss ideas, average minds discuss events, and small minds discuss people." You think there's any truth to that?
Absolutely.
Again, small minds, they love to gossip. Did you hear what Sally did about this? Did you see what Bob did? It just never, when you come in, you hear the office gossip. It's, discussing people instead of concepts and ideas. And so, maybe it's a little denigrating to people who are only discussing. I think people who can discuss events can also discuss ideas. But when somebody spends most of their time just discussing other people and putting other people down, you're dealing with a really small-minded person. All right. As I may have mentioned in one of my previous podcasts, in Colorado, I was there for 25 years. In 24 of those 25 years, I had a concealed weapon carry permit. And it took about a week to get one. I submitted my application. They took my fingerprints and a picture, and they said, "Okay, we got to run a background check. Come back. We'll call you in a couple of days." And within 3 or 4 days, I went back and boom, here's your permit. And I think you mentioned you might have gotten one in Pennsylvania, didn't you?
Yep. Yes, I did.
How long did it take you to get yours?
About 30 minutes.
About 30 minutes. All right. Well, you know how long it took me to get mine in New Jersey?
I'm going to guess a couple months.
6 months and 8 days.
Wow.
Now, my question is, what, like the woman we're gonna talk about in our taxpayer relief chat, what if I was a single woman being stalked by a dangerous and violent ex-boyfriend? I might be dead by now. 6 months and 8 days. And let me tell you how ridiculous the final piece of paper. Now, in Colorado, they gave me a laminated card like a driver's license, had a thumbprint on
Yep.
the back, it had a picture, and it was what do they do in Pennsylvania? Same thing?
Same thing. It looks similar to my driver's license. As a matter of fact, it's in my wallet directly behind my driver's license.
Right. So it's very, very difficult to counterfeit. They
Mhm.
literally gave me a strip of paper, 8.5 inches wide by 3 inches high, with my photograph. Ready for this? Because I had to submit some passport photos. They literally took a stapler and stapled my picture to this strip of paper. I could take a staple remover and put Joe Biden's picture on my concealed carry permit. I mean, how stupid.
All that after 6 months.
6 months and 8 days, and they send me a strip of paper, which I had to fold over and laminate with my picture literally with a staple through it. Now, let's contrast that with what's going on in other states. And do you know that there are 26? Have you ever heard of constitutional carry?
Yeah, and I thought it was 30 states, but 26, you say?
I believe it's 26. I could be wrong.
I thought it was 30
Okay.
something, but
Well, in at least, let's put it the way, in at least 26 states, the state has said these are the criteria under which you can carry a concealed weapon. And if you meet the criteria, you can. And if you don't, you can't. And if we find you carrying one and you don't meet the criteria, you're going to get arrested for a felony. And guess what? There is no shootouts. And let me put a little more context. When I first got to Colorado, in some of the county, Colorado used to be what's called a may issue state, not a shall issue. And the difference between may issue and shall issue is the law used to say that the sheriff may issue a concealed carry permit. Basically, it was at the discretion of the sheriff. And in certain counties like Denver County and Boulder County, the sheriffs of those counties said, don't bother applying because we don't give them out. Well, back around I'm guessing 98, the state legislature said this is ridiculous. And they passed a state law saying that Colorado will be a shall issue state. And the difference is, if you're a shall issue state, that it means that unless there's a disqualifying event or criteria, the sheriff does not have that discretion. The sheriff shall issue the permit. Now, when that legislation was being proposed, the Democrats, not all of them, but some of the Democrats in the legislature were predicting, if this law goes through and people get, and sheriffs don't have discretion, every time there's a dispute over a parking spot, we're going to have a shootout in parking lots. Every time there's a fender bender and there's a disagreement, we're going to have shootouts. This was the prediction. And you know what, Sue? None of those things ever happened. Not once. And in the 26 states.
and by the way, I just looked it up. It is 25.
25, okay.
Yeah.
And so are you hearing reports of daily shootouts between legal concealed weapons carry holders in those 25 states?
No. And
So
I'm surprised, by the way, of the 25 states, Pennsylvania is actually not one of them.
well, you don't have, that's because you have to get a permit. You don't have constitutional carry. You just said you
Yeah.
have to get a permit.
Yeah.
Right. So even though it's a 30-minute process, you still have to get that card.
Mhm.
In 26 other states, you don't even need to have the card. It just
Yeah.
says,
So just this year, Alabama, Ohio, Indiana, and Georgia were the last 4 states to join. So it is currently up to 25. And this
Right,
is
so-
a recent article.
right. So the point I'm making, when you contrast the fact that all hell hasn't broken loose in those states that have implemented constitutional carry, why does Jersey feel it necessary? And by the way, you wouldn't believe, in addition to the 6 months and 8 days, I had to go proficiency. I had to get 4 reference checks. I had to be fingerprinted for a second time. It was just an onerous and expensive process. I think between the fingerprinting costs, the fees I had to pay to go demonstrate my proficiency with a firearm, the ammunition I had to spend, I think I had to spend almost an additional $400 in fees to get my concealed carry. So, if you're I've mentioned this before, I think New Jersey doesn't want poor people to have guns because let's say you live in a bad neighborhood, you have to, you have to walk to work or take the bus to work, and you think you might want to have carry a gun. Well, maybe you scrape together $350 for a gun, and then you find out you have to scrape together another $400 to pay for the training and the paperwork, and the fingerprinting and the proficiency test. Basically, you're looking at $1,000 bill. And how many people on the lower end of the income spectrum can afford that? I just think it's some form of discrimination based upon income. Any thoughts?
No, you're absolutely right. You were telling me your struggles every month. You had a different obstacle to go through, and every obstacle was $100 here and $100 there. And what was the total that it cost you finally?
$380, and that doesn't include the cost of the gas. And if I was working and had to take time off, I bet you between the round trips I had to make to the third-party fingerprinting agency, the round trips I had to make to the gun range, I bet you I racked up 150 miles in travel time. And then you're sitting around waiting for fingerprinting. Then you're sitting around waiting for the firearms profession to. I bet you I had 7 or 8 hours worth of my time plus 150 car miles. So how many people can take that much time off from work?
It's a good thing you're retired.
Yeah.
And then
I'm retired. Right.
And the 25 was the constitutional carry. What I was thinking of was the reciprocity of other states is in the 30s.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. You ready to roll on to the stupidest thing I've heard all week?
What's that?
Here's Vice President Kamala Harris talking about what she and Joe Biden have done to lower your heating and electric bills, or claiming that that she has lowered your heating and electric bill. And why won't this start playing? Hang on. I had it all teed up. Here we go. Hopefully I won't get an ad here. Well, there is an ad, but we're going to temporarily, I think it's a short ad. I don't know why this does this. I get these things teed up past the ad, and then it reverts back to the ad. All right. Here we go.
Joe Biden and I talk about and work together with our partners, like former leader Hoyer, current leader Hoyer, to lower the cost for the people of our nation, because you are leader. For working families, we have reduced heating and electricity bills, so folks have more money in their.
Did you hear say we have lowered heating and electricity bills?
My electric bill and my heating bill have both increased significantly in the last year.
I am not aware of a single jurisdiction in the United States where electricity has not gone up, and I'm not aware of any place where heating bills today are less than they were 2 years ago. So, I mean, let me continue. There's like another 15 seconds here.
Get to buy things like school supplies.
I'm going to back that up. Here we go.
Dishwasher. For working families, we have reduced heating and electricity bills, so folks have more money in their pocket to buy things like school supplies, replace the dishwasher, or take a family vacation.
So you think that qualifies as the stupidest thing I've heard all week?
Well, I certainly disagree with it. That's for sure.
Well, since I'm not aware of any place in this country where it's true, and if anybody wants to contest it and send me proof that she's correct, but I try to stay informed, and I look at the U.S. Energy EIA Energy Information Administration. I was looking at the U.S. average heating costs, electric costs. They're all up. So unless somebody can show me where that has gone down, I'm going to have to say that's the stupidest thing I heard all week. Now, Producer Sue, you said you were not familiar with the suicides of Clinton advisors. Now, this goes all the way back to the Whitewater scandal. Now, there's a lot of conspiracy theories, but there's been all sorts of people over the years have either been murdered on the street, die in a plane crash, or supposedly committed suicide. And I'll just give you a short list before I get to the most recent one. There was a guy named Victor Razor. He was a national finance co-chair for Bill Clinton, died in a plane crash. Mark Mahoney was a former White House intern who in early of summer of 97 was gunned down during an attempted robbery inside a Starbucks. Vince Foster, he was deputy White House counsel. He was found dead in Fort Mercy Park, Virginia. He, his death was ruled a suicide, even though other investigators disputed that. Seth Rich was shot to death on a Washington, D.C. street. We all know about Jeffrey Epstein. And by the way, do you know that Clinton was a frequent visitor to Epstein's private island? And when he went, this was after he was president, but when he went, he would leave his Secret Service detail behind. He would get on Epstein's private jet and tell his security detail, "I'm okay, you don't need to come with me." I don't know if you ever heard that, but that was been documented as true. Christopher Sign was another one. He was found dead on the Phoenix Sky Harbor tarmac. Jovenel Moisey. Anyway, you can just Google Clinton suicides. Here is the most recent one that happened this week. And you tell me if this sounds suspicious. Arkansas police ruled suicide in the death of Clinton aide who was linked to Jeffrey Epstein. The aide was found shot and tied to a tree with an electrical cord around his neck, despite no sign of a weapon nearby. Mark Middleton, who had signed Jeffrey Epstein into the White House on several times, has been alleged to have killed himself. Now, if you're found shot with a gunshot and there's no gun near your body, are you a little skeptical when they tell you it's suicide?
Well, I did see an episode of CSI where they tied the gun to a balloon. But aside from that, yeah, I'd be skeptical.
So anyway, and here's the point. You didn't hear that on TV, right?
No.
No. Anyway, so another Clinton associate, and this was the guy who would always usher Jeffrey Epstein into the White House on numerous occasions. Let's go to the Aurora Theater shooting. Now, it was a tragedy, 2012. I think there were 12 people still killed. Now, there was a lawsuit in Connecticut over the, I forget the name of the school in Connecticut, the
Sandy Hook.
Sandy Hook Elementary School. And some parents there sued. By the way, there is a federal law that says you can't sue gun manufacturers for the misuse of their guns. But they sued on basis of reckless advertising. They said that Remington advertised the gun in a manner that was reckless. And I believe they got a settlement. So you've heard of the Brady Anti-Gun Organization?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, the Brady United Against Gun Violence urged the parents of a young girl who was killed. She was a teenager. She was killed in the Aurora Theater. They urged the couple to sue the manufacturers of the guns, the ammunitions, and the body armor used by the shooter. And they said, and we will provide legal representation for you at no cost. So you don't have to pay out of pocket. We'll provide legal representation. So this couple, unfortunately, at the urging of the Brady United Against Gun Violence, sued all those different manufacturers. Well, a federal judge dismissed their lawsuit as, quote, frivolous and without merit. And as a result of their frivolous and meritless lawsuit, the judge ordered them to pay the defendants in the case, to pay the legal fees of the defendants in the case. You know how much their legal fees were of all those defendants combined?
I'd imagine thousands and thousands of dollars.
Try hundreds of thousands of dollars, $200,000 in legal fees. Mm-hmm. So when this couple turned to the Brady Group, who instigated, said, "Oh yeah, you need to sue those bastards," the Brady Group told them, "Sorry, we said we'd represent you. We didn't say we'd take any liability. You're on your own." And the couple had to file bankruptcy and lost their house as a result of being egged on by the Brady Group to file that meritless lawsuit. And it's sad. Mm-hmm. And again, you don't sue Ford if some drunk, takes their Ford Explorer and kills somebody, or even if a person, you've seen these stories where somebody gets mad and intentionally drives their car through the store window of some restaurant or coffee shop they didn't like, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's an illegal unintended use of the product. Well, you can't sue Ford when that happens. And the federal government said, by the way, you can sue a gun manufacturer if the gun is defective. If the gun goes off, the safety doesn't work, the gun blows up, you can absolutely still sue gun manufacturers. But you can't sue a gun manufacturer or a bullet manufacturer because somebody misused their product. And this poor couple got suckered in by the Brady United Against Gun Violence, brought this frivolous lawsuit. And when the judge dismissed it and said, pay the defendant's legal fees because your suit had no merit, they went bankrupt. So, any thoughts on that poor couple?
Yeah, it's a shame that there was tragedy became further from a tragedy. And we talk a lot about the definition of a mass shooting, and that is the very clear definition of a mass shooting. And the gentleman who did that is serving significant jail time.
Yep, he's serving life without
parole. But he's the one that needs to punish.
Hang on, life without parole, and as it should be. But it's just so sad. Let's go on to what's the fastest you ever got cited for speeding?
90 on the Garden State Parkway.
90 on the Garden State Parkway. Well, this guy's got you beat. This was in Michigan this week. Let me play this little 30-second clip of this guy in Michigan. Let's see if I can get it to play.
Well, it is tough to stay below the radar when you're going this fast.
A state trooper working speed enforcement late yesterday afternoon in Lansing stopped a 2020 Dodge Charger doing 156 miles per hour in a 70-mile-per-hour zone. It gets worse. The driver was driving on a restricted license that included conditions on when he could drive. He was cited for misdemeanor reckless driving and violating the conditions of his license restriction, then released. He also loses the car, at least temporarily. It's been impounded. Chris Kaiser, WWJ News Radio 950.
So do you know anybody else has even come close to 156 miles an hour?
There's no reason for anybody to be going that fast.
I'm surprised he did. By the way, tires, not all tires, tires have speed ratings, and not all tires are rated for 156. It's a good thing it was cold, because in the summer, had the tires been warmer, I think he might have blown a tire and crashed and killed himself, and maybe that wouldn't have been a bad thing. But 150. So ask your friends, what's the fastest you ever gotten a speeding ticket, and see if they can beat 156 miles an hour.
Yeah, I can clearly say no.
All right. Now, remember I told you about the perfect Christmas gift for people if you have any really wacko environmentalist friends?
Yes.
Did you know that reusable toilet paper is a thing?
I saw that. That's disgusting. Why do people come up with this stuff?
Well, it saves trees, Susan.
Oh.
It saves trees.
I mean, I get the reusable baby diapers. I get the diaper issue, but toilet paper.
Yep, and when you buy it, you get your own little trapdoor container, and then you empty it into your washing machine. By the way, I think from a eco-friendly, you use so much water and energy to wash that stuff, and certainly you're not going to wash it with other clothes, so you're going to do a separate load.
With the toilet paper versus diapers, toilet paper disintegrates, especially those of you who have septic systems. It over time, and there's nothing left.
Nothing. Yes.
Unlike a diaper that does have residual, so I understand the use for recyclable diapers.
Yeah. But anyway, and by the way, and it's on Amazon. You can literally go on Amazon.
Yeah, I did see that.
So yes, reusable toilet paper is a real thing, and you can order it on Amazon. So anybody listening, if you have any friends or relatives or really diehard extreme environmentalists, that's what you're going to get them for Christmas. All right. Taxpayer relief shots. And again, I'm going to play we call them taxpayer relief shots because when a good guy or a good woman shoots a thug, shoots and kills a thug, it saves the taxpayers the cost of a jury trial. The court appointed a defense attorney, $80,000 a year to keep the guy in jail, meal, medical expense, clothing expense, probation expense, saves the taxpayer a lot of money. And we actually have a quote from a sheriff in Santa Rosa County, Florida. And that's just not me. Here's how the sheriff of Santa Rosa County, Florida feels about you shooting bad guys. Let me see.
If somebody's breaking in your house, you're more than welcome to shoot them in Santa Rosa County. We prefer that you do, actually. Hopefully you'll save the taxpayers money.
Now, and producers, so you've heard that before, but and you've also heard Sheriff Grady Judge talking about shoot them till they look like grated cheese, right? You've heard
Yep.
that. Well, Sheriff Grady Judd, not to be outdone, Sheriff Judd, Grady Judd has come out with another bit of advice for homeowners and thugs. Let me see if I can get this one to play here. And here's Sheriff Grady, Polk County.
Have received information in social media that some of the criminals were going to take their criminal conduct into the neighborhoods. I would tell them, if you value your life, you probably shouldn't do that in Polk County, because the people of Polk County like guns. They have guns. I encourage them to own guns, and they're going to be in their homes tonight with their guns loaded. And if you try to break into their homes to steal, to set fires, I'm highly recommending they blow you back out of the house with their guns.
What do you think? Blow you back out of their house with their guns. What do you think of that advice?
I mean, if somebody trespasses in your house, you have every right to defend yourself in your own home.
Yeah, but Sheriff Judd he's pretty colorful. Blow them back out, blow them back out of your house with your guns. So if you're a crook in Florida, yeah, I think you ought to think twice before you think about burglarizing people.
I think Florida's getting up there with Texas in their gun ownership.
I think you're right. And by the way, I think in one of our earlier podcasts, we talked about there were 20 million guns sold in this country last year, and that a growing percentage of them are being purchased by African Americans and also women. So legally purchased by African American and legally purchased by women. I think both of those trends are great.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. So remember, I talked about how long it took me to get my concealed carry permit, and what if I was a single woman, being stalked by a dangerous ex-boyfriend? Well, this one comes to us from Indianapolis, where a violent ex-boyfriend, who, by the way, she had called police on this guy before, 1 o'clock in the morning, here he comes breaking down her door. And I think there's about a 3-second intro I have to let go by here. All right, here we go.
We'll get to all those stories here, much more here first and four, but we begin with Metro Police investigating after 2 people were shot overnight in 2 separate incidents. One of those people was killed.
Police say a man was killed after trying to force his way into an apartment on Indy's northeast side. Thanks for joining us for First at 4. I'm Aaliyah Blackburn.
And I'm Nick McGill. Now, Fox 9's Jesse Wells explains how the shooting reflects a deadly trend to start this year.
Police confirmed the deadly shooting here at this apartment building was domestic related. Right now, it's believed a man tried to break into his girlfriend's inside apartment door right here when he was shot. So far, police believe that shooting was justified. Just after 1 a.m, police were called here to the Bayview Club Apartments and found Kevin Pogue Jr. shot. 31-year-old died after being taken to the hospital because investigators claim Pogue was acting as a home intruder. His death, while still a homicide, does not appear to be criminal.
People are allowed to use deadly force to protect themselves and their home against intruders.
Attorney Mario Masalamani says Indiana lawmakers have given people a lot of freedom to defend their home.
Our legislature values the fact that your home is your castle and that you have a lot more protections than if you're on the street. You do not have a duty to retreat. You are allowed to feel safe in your own home.
The death Tuesday morning is just the latest in a series of non-criminal homicides to start 2023. As these numbers show, 10 of the first 36 homicides this year have been deemed accidental, self-defense, or cleared without charges. That's a dramatic increase over the last 2 years on the same date, when there was only 1 non-criminal homicide in 2021 and 3 in 2022. In this case, police reports show IMPD responded to a domestic violence incident involving the same 2 people at the same apartment just 2 days ago on Sunday.
Police say the shooter did stay here on scene and fully cooperated with investigators. That person has not been arrested. Jesse Wells, Fox 59 News.
So the guy couldn't take no for an answer. 2 days earlier, the police were called and told him to go home, go away. And 2 days later, at 1 o'clock in the morning, he comes breaking down the girl's door. So again, if you're a single woman, you need to defend yourself, because again, when seconds count, the police are going to be minutes away. Any thoughts on today's taxpayer relief shot?
Yeah, it sounds justified. And again, as we discussed earlier in the show, that Indiana is one of the 4 new states that is now a constitutional carry state.
Right. So,
Alabama, Ohio, Indiana, and Georgia just recently passed.
well, good for them. I just wish New Jersey was with them. Anyway, but by the way, he mentioned, castle doctrine in, I believe, 48 states in the union. If you find someone in your house at 2:00 in the morning, and you decide it becomes necessary to shoot them, you cannot be charged if they are in your house illegally without invitation. New Jersey is one of 2 states in the union where you have, instead of the castle doctrine, you have what's called a duty to retreat. If I hear a noise in my house at 2:00 in the morning and go downstairs and there's somebody down there, and even if he starts shooting at me, under New Jersey law, I can't shoot back. I have a duty to flee and retreat. And I have to go, run and hide, lock myself in the bathroom. And only if I can demonstrate that I had no other alternative but to fire in self-defense. That's the only time shooting somebody in your house in New Jersey is legally justified, which I find personally ludicrous, but that's the law. That's the law in New Jersey, and I shake my head about duty to retreat.
And let me guess, what is the other state?
California.
California. I was going to say it's got to either be New York or California.
California, duty to retreat. All right. Anyway, so that's the show for today. I want to thank all of you who listened to the podcast for giving up 30 minutes of your time. If you have any comments, questions, or topics, just send them to me at joe@jerzee-joe.com. That's JERZ as in zebra, EEEE, JER@jerzee-joe.com. If you want to find some of the materials that producer Susan puts up on the website, go to jerzeejoe.com and you'll find some of the materials as along with podcasts. And that's all I've got, unless producer Susan, you have anything you want to add?
No, I'm looking forward to our first official snowstorm on Friday.
Yeah, your first official snowstorm? You haven't had any yet?
We had one shovelable snow before the holidays, so this will be the first one of the new year.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm still waiting for ours where I get to use my snowblower. All right. Producer Susan, thank you for your help. I'll talk to you next week.
All right, have fun.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.